I was muted. Sorry, 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 sorry. My mic muted again. Sorry.
Yeah, because I was
Can
not hearing. He was saying sorry, 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 and all that. I don't know why he keep on
you,
re-echoing. Okay, can you say something now?
I can hear you perfectly, Barrister. Can you hear me, sir?
Okay, okay. I hope you continue like this, because it was
Okay, great.
echoing and I was not hearing it again. Yeah, right.
Oh, okay, okay, great. So
Mm,
now we're talking about the military discipline of the female soldier who accepted love proposal from
mm,
an NYSC corps member who
mm.
loved her and extended love to her and decided to propose. And then there have been different two angles now. Some supporting the military that they have to exert some level of discipline in order to give deterrence to people using the uniform. Of the point. What is your own position, Barrister, since we learned of this matter?
Yeah, are you hearing me now?
I can hear you very clearly, sir.
Okay, yeah. What I think is the fact that I agree with those who talk about discipline, that these forces must maintain their level of discipline for those who are their employees or those who are, engaged to work for the Federal Republic of Nigeria as security agents. The level of discipline must be maintained. I don't have any problem with that. I have this belief that in maintaining this discipline over their members or over their employees, they must also try as much as possible to respect their fundamental human rights, which has not been abrogated or abridged by virtue of the fact that they are now working for the security agencies. No, they don't lose those rights that has been provided for under the Constitution. You don't lose it by virtue of the fact that you have signed now to be a military officer, you have signed to be a Navy officer. No, those rights are inherent. They are even given by nature before the advent of the society. They exist before a country emerges. So they are known as fundamental human rights. So you don't in any way forget those rights and then violate it all in a bid to instill discipline in accordance with your own internal rules and regulation. That is where I have an issue with what it seemed to be the norm under the Nigerian military organization. They believe that the best way is to always throw people into indefinite detention because to them that is a way of instilling discipline. I don't think that is a cake way of instilling discipline. We think that there are other better ways for you to still instill discipline and maintain cohesion and order, law and order within your organization without necessarily violating the rights of those who are employed under you. That is my take. I don't know what I'm being here. I'm not hearing you anymore. Shegu, I'm not hearing you anymore. Is there any problem? Oh my God. Are we still online?
Hello, Barrister.
Yeah, Shegu, I wanted this interview to be live. I wanted it
It's
to
actually
come to my Yeah, I
it's
wanted it to
actually
come to the Yeah, what I mean, I wanted it to come to the office so we don't have all these technological hitches, here and there. I wanted it to come. That's why when I finished from court, I wanted us to have this interview live. Maybe we will have to postpone this interview and do it in a more because I would like this particular interview in your one of your wide, your studio. I mean, your television online is one of the best. People watch it, but these hitches is something that I can't understand. I would have wanted a situation where you come to my office or we agree on a very suitable avenue where we can meet to have a live interview where you interview me, this way. This is very disruptive. At the time, I was
I
not
understand.
hearing you. At the time, you are not hearing me and all that. I don't.
I understand
Technology
all of that.
sometimes can become. So I
Yes,
don't
but
think.
we are
Can
still
we go?
live
You
though.
want to? Okay, okay, we can continue. No problem. Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know, but the last thing I heard was that
Mm.
you do not want a situation where internal discipline
Yes,
principle will interfere with fundamental human rights of the individuals, and we
that's
all
correct. That's
everybody
correct.
and everybody can understand that. But
Yes.
what would you therefore propose for internal discipline that is might be acceptable?
Yeah. There is nothing wrong in querying somebody who has breached any of your regulations. And when that person has done anything that you have considered after replying to the query, you can suspend that individual. You can suspend. If it is a very serious crime or whatever offense the person has committed, it can even lead to dismissal. I just don't believe in throwing people into indefinite detention, just like what happened to Keith Abiola, because you
Mm,
feel he has breached any of your administrative rule. He didn't even, he came to work. You sort of hijacked him and put him in detention. He took the family were very apprehensive. His friend were all over the social media trying to say, is it that our friend has been kidnapped or has he been abducted? It was two
mm,
days later that the Navy naval officers now came to own up that they have him in their custody after 2 days. So you can imagine the kind of trauma the family has been made to undergo, all because you trying to instill discipline and you feel that the best way is to do it that way. Those methods are a cake. Our leaders are still applying all those 18th century method of doing things, and that's why the country is not making progress. We should be a
mm,
bit advanced in terms of knowledge and the way we apply certain things. We see it happen even in developed economies where army personnel propose marriages to their girlfriend, even in the uniform, in American uniform. They do it, and the heavens don't fall. Especially if you want to discipline that an error that does not affect the security of the country, does not in any way impair or injurious to our societal security, economic issues. You can forgive. You can play this godly role as okay, but we won't tolerate it next time. Because this lady now that discovered this guy who loved this, the 3 years you are asking her to stay, if after 3 years she doesn't get a husband, you have
mm,
sentenced her to life of misery and despair. This young man now wants to marry her. So, and this young man is interested now. You now want her to serve you 3 solid years before she talks about marriage. What if that 3 years nobody's ready to marry her? Will you go and marry her? Meanwhile, you are living with your
mm,
own wife and raising your own family and all that. So sometimes we need to be a bit more realistic and a bit more godly in the way we handle things and all that. You now say she has not completed the 3 years, and because she has not completed, she has breached your rule. And so what you now is to throw her into detention. That lady as I speak to you is in detention because she accepted a
mm.
marriage proposal. Is it fair? Are we in North Korea where you banish smiling, where you banish love, where you banish people to be happy? What you decree always is that people must be sad, people must always be frowning and be frustrated. So I think These are kind of things we should not allow, to become, a permanent feature in our national life. We should be able to begin to play this godly and fatherly role sometimes, in things like this. Yeah, she accepted a marriage proposal. She has not committed any known offense under our law. It's not an offense because you cannot be convicted today in Nigerian law under an offense that is not defined. It's not a offense under any of our penal or criminal code. So what is the issue? The administrative rules, fine. Can't you query her or you suspend her and all that? But why throw her into the indefinite detention? That is what I'm against. So I am saying that our leaders must try to up their game. We are too archaic in this nation. What we always go for are things that are archaic and negative, things that retard our progress. That is what you see our leaders, they bask in it. They take so much glory in always pursuing things that retard our progress, that portray us as if we're in the 15th century. There is no progressiveness in their mind. There is nothing that they think or they do. You see some level of progress, that is in tandem with current reality that makes you know, oh, I'm working with people who know what's up to, what's up. They are too archaic, for my liking, and all that. So I think that what should have done in the circumstance, if this girl has breached is to probably query her, suspend her, or do one or but throw her into detention. To me, these are measures I feel is too draconian, and all that. And that girl is still in detention at this point in time. No, I don't
Barrister,
like them.
Barrister, before now we have seen videos also, and also instances where random persons who were probably camouflage, military camouflage, or all that, being manhandled, mistreated,
Yeah.
dehumanized by military men. And up till now, that has also constituted another controversial topic. Now that this
Yes.
one has come up, more people are cumulatively talking about military discipline in relation to handling civilian issues. But this time, we are faced with how to intervene in all of these matters at once. Now, what is the position of law in handling issues of military internal affairs in a democratic setting? Uh, is it
Yes.
possible? What is the position of law in intervening? Is it possible to perhaps sue the military and get a civilian court to maybe override on the decision of the military in the way they handle their internal affairs, or even in the way
Yes.
they handle civilians?
Yes. If a military institution does commit any breach or any liability, civil liability against any of their members
Honest.
or any of the civilian, are you hearing me now? Am I being heard? Is
Very
there
clear.
is there
Yeah,
okay,
I can hear
fine.
you now.
You have a right to approach any of the courts, in the land, for civil matter. If it is issue of enforcement of your fundamental human rights, you go to the court in order to enforce your right. And the court will make a ruling after listening to you. Like the one you just said now, that somebody wears uniform and then the person now is being dehumanized. The law gives you issue of respect to your dignity as a human being. If they feel that the wearing that particular uniform is a criminal offense, you take the person to court and let there be a conviction. And let me see the particular section that makes wearing army uniform a criminal offense. You go and convict the person. But for you now to engage in dehumanizing act, by beating and make from jumping that individual, is clearly going beyond the bounds. So you have violated the right of that individual, and that individual has a right to go to court, a civilian court, yes, and the man will be served. If you know his address, you know his name, you serve him the enforcement of your right that he has violated it, and he has to pay damages for that violation of your right. So that is the issue. Or even if it is somebody that is also under the employment, there's nothing stopping that individual from enforcing the right. The only thing that you may now probably be victimized, they will want to dismiss you, find one's silly excuse to dismiss you for taking the authority to court because you are subject to them and all that. That may be the reason why most of these things are not even brought to the courts, by those who are their employees. But nothing stop you. There is no issue that the court will not assume jurisdiction over such a infraction if you complain to them that this is how you have been dehumanized, because you are working for the naval authority, or you're working for the military authority, or you're working for Air Force authority. There's nothing stopping you from coming to court to enforce your right, as prescribed under our constitution. So the law is very clear. You can do that. But my only problem most times is that you get this judgment, you cannot enforce it because who are those to enforce it? They are also this the police. And police, tend to be very, very weak. The institutions are weak. And so you get the judgment, you cannot enforce it. I have a judgment against the Nigerian police, which you are aware of. I've given you the judgment. Got 17 million against the police because they shot my client who was coming back from work. The young man has to go to India and treat himself. So we went to court. Police did not have any answer to our claim. We got a judgment for 6-7 years now. We have been pursuing the matter. We're even in the NSAS panel. NSAS panel said the only thing we have to do is to go back to the federal government to get our judgment paid and all that. So you can imagine the frustration. You can imagine the kind of system we're operating that is so wicked, that is so frustrating, that makes you, less human. And these guys who are in authority will always want to dehumanize individuals, make you look like an animal. And we're saying that we're not animals, we are human beings. And there are some respect, that is accorded to a being, by being created in the nature of God. You have, legal rights. You have protection of your rights. And nobody can dehumanize you. Nobody can make you look like an animal. Nobody can treat you like a dog. No, you have to respect whether he's poor or rich. He has human dignity, which the Constitution itself has preserved. So he cannot in any way, carry out an act that is clearly inhuman or undignifying against an individual who is a full-blooded human being that is living. You don't do that anywhere in the society, and that's why in all this developed, you see how they respect rights. Even when, I watched one particular, film this morning, and it's funny enough, a lady entered into a plane and was breastfeeding a cat. But covered it to look like a baby. Yeah, he saw it, and the passenger complained. When the pilot came, and he said, "Do you want to open it? Go ahead and open it, but you take liability. If you find out that it is a baby, yes." And the man says, "I will." So it took time. It took over 5 or 10 minutes argument before the pilot summoned courage even to remove that. But it's in Nigeria, yeah. The policeman would have beaten the woman up before and removed the, whether baby or you see how respect. The pilot had to accord that woman respect, even in the plane, while she was even lying, carrying a cat, breastfeeding a cat. The woman was still lying. Still, it took some level of understanding and measure of this, measure of what you would call respect before that baby was, that so-called baby was discovered to be a cat. See how she was treated. So what I'm trying to say in effect is that a human being has every right, that is been given by God, before the creation of society, and that's the truth. So we must also try to ensure that we magnify those rights and respect them. But if somebody has committed a crime, that person also must face the law, in accordance with rules and regulations. We're not saying that we should accord a criminal, all the let him go scot-free. No, even in prosecuting a criminal, even in arresting and arraignment of a criminal, that criminal deserves all the full respect. Is when after your conviction, you now sentence that individual, even while under custody, after having been sentenced to either serve how many years, jail time, the rights are still there. The right of an individual is still there. That's why if you kill that individual, mess up that individual in the prison system, even though he's a convict, you still have to have some level of liability, either against the state or individual who commits any, civil liability against that individual. So your right is not lost by virtue of the fact that you are a convict. Your right is not lost by virtue of the fact that you are poor. Your right is not lost by virtue of the fact that you are short. Your right is not lost by virtue of the fact that you come from a particular tribe. You don't lose right by that. Nobody can profile you and give you a bad name and say all of you are criminals. So that's the point. That's what I'm trying to say. That in doing discipline their officers, let them try as much as possible to observe the basic fundamental human rights. Provisions is there in the Constitution. It has not been abrogated. But the fact that somebody has breached your rules, your regulation, does not mean that that person has lost all the full legal right that the Constitution accords that individual. That's what we're trying to say in effect.
Barrister, somebody is asking a question here that in most cases, we as civilians do not want military to interfere in civil matters. That why should civilians therefore be interested in intervening or interfering
That is a very funny question. No, we must get involved in everything that has to do with Nigeria. It's not when you become a military, it doesn't make you another human being. You are still a Nigerian citizen. That's what I'm trying to explain. Maybe the person has not been listening from beginning. There's no way you can say we shouldn't get involved in military. It means that they are living in their own country. and all that. They are part of the system. We must be interested in their rights, much as also they must be interested in our own rights and all that. They must not violate it. The military is like your brother can be a military officer. Because your brother is a military officer does not make him now a superhuman. Does not make him now to be living in a different planet. He's living in Nigeria and he's still operated and being bound by laws of the country. And so that's why we must get involved and be interested in what happens to them. That lady that was arrested and put in detention, what was she doing? She was in the UCAP, coppers camp, in order to, engage in an ad hoc training of those who are serving the country. So that is, we're interested in what goes on there. We're interested also how rights are respected there. We're interested also how the military behave there. Just as also we're interested in how the coppers who are civilians who are there and all that. So it's about governance. It's about government. It's about people. So we cannot divorce them and all that. That's a very narrow understanding of what governance is all about. Oh, because it's a military, it doesn't concern. No, that's not true. They are part of the system. They are part of the country. So they are bound by the laws of the country. Don't allow them to do anything as if they are above the law. If you begin to have such a mentality that the person who has that question, that means that they can do anything and get away with it because according to him, it doesn't concern us about them. No, they are part of the system, so they must be bound by the laws of the country. Let's expand our knowledge, And what we also I have problem with our education. Our education is not comprehensive enough. I won't be surprised that it's a graduate that is asking that question. A graduate is saying, why must you get involved in military and all? I mean, went to university, so what manner of education did you have for to feel that the military should not in any way, be part of the system? We shouldn't get involved in their matter and all that. No, so I think we should, and also ensure that they obey the laws of the land, and they must also do things in accordance with the law. They have the administrative law, as I said earlier, but those administrative law is subject also to the provisions of the Constitution, which is the ground norm, which is the superior law, which is the most important law in the land. Everything must revolve around it. And any law, whether administrative or substantive enactment that goes contrary to the provisions of the Constitution, that law will be null and void. That law will be rendered null and void. Are you following me?
Very well,
it's
sir.
important. Yes.
I would like to stretch it a little, Barrister, and I want to say, sometimes you remember that there were times when some persons were arrested, maybe on the highway, in the forest, or other things connected with terrorism, who were using the military uniform to carry out terrorist acts, to kidnap and to engage in other nefarious activities.
Yes.
And we have seen so many of those things when they were being paraded by either the police or other supreme military task force. But then when they said they do not want the military uniform to be abused by just anybody, that because they wanted to bring sanity back and respect to that uniform, so that it is only those who are entitled or given approval to use it are able to use it, and not just anybody abusing it. Don't you think, because they are overwhelmed by anybody just using the military uniform, legality apart now, or constitution or law apart now, morality, I mean, let's bring morality into it. Do you not think the Nigerian military is overwhelmed and might be looking for any means to bring respect back to the uniform, so that it is not just used by anybody to do just anything?
Yes, I as an individual now, I will not go and start wearing army uniform. It doesn't make sense because I'm not an army officer. I know that those who wear the uniform is an army officer. So also expect every person who is a civilian not to wear an army uniform. But if the person goes beyond the bound and then wears army uniform, is there any law that criminalizes it today? If there is any law that criminalizes the wearing of army uniform, or you are trying to portray yourself as a military officer, whereas you are not, what we insist is that that person should be taken to the court before an impartial arbiter who now says, yes, you have contravened this law, and this is the legal consequence for contravening the law. But not for the military officer to engage in, beating, using koboko or using belt to dehumanize that individual because the person is wearing uniform. That is what, we're not insisting that people should be lawless. We're not saying that people should go and wear army uniform all in a bid to enforce your right, because what right if the law does not allow you to wear the uniform and all that? So, but what I'm saying, if the person has breached any law, any known law by wearing the army uniform, that is a process and procedure for which you can bring that person to face the penal measures that the law has provided. It must be in accordance with the law. But you who has arrested that individual should not be the judge, should not be the decision, because that man must be heard. He may have his reason why he's wearing that, or maybe he has just joined the army, but you don't know. and all that. So the court, that's why the court is there to hear that individual. So my friend, are you aware that this uniform you are wearing contravenes so section of the law? So what do you have to say concerning that? The person will have a right to say, okay, I am guilty, or I have a right to wear, and this is where I derive my right from to wear this uniform. Having heard that individual, the court now goes ahead now to make a ruling or a judgment that you haven't contravened this law and haven't given any proper explanation why, disciplinary measures, this is what the consequences are. That person now goes to serve any sentence that has been imposed upon by the court. But not that army man that arrests you to do all the beating, give you all the wound, throw you into indefinite detention. That is what we are against. We are not advocating. Most of us who do these things are not advocating for lawlessness in the society. We're not saying that these guys we should be lawless. We must comply with the law. It will be unwise for me to begin to wear army uniform when I'm not an army officer, or go and wear police uniform. It's stupidity on my own part. Am I an officer? Why am I wearing the uniform? So why don't I allow those who are trained, to wear those uniforms? That's what I'm trying to say. But peradventure somebody foolishly does that, then that person should not be dehumanized because he's wearing uniform. He should be given all the legal rights that is available under our law, and then punished also in accordance with the law, because the provisions of the law are there. If there is any provision that makes wearing army uniform to be a criminal offense, then you cite that section and then convict that individual and sentence him appropriately. So let him serve his sentence for wearing army uniform. That sends a better signal rather than dehumanizing, beating, frog jumping, because I don't think that is right under a civilian regime on which we are operating. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, for now, as we close, Barrister, I just want to ask, now that the public is interested in this particular case, what
Yes.
is the remedy applicable for the masses or the public to intervene for this particular female soldier, for this particular soldier? What is possible?
I think that the government of the day should intervene in this matter. This is issue of matter of love. It's issue of the heart. This girl had this opportunity from the young man that offered to marry her. Now, even if the law says 3 years, you have to stay before you marry and all that. As I said earlier, if after 3 years she doesn't see any husband, would this army officer go and marry her? So they can suspend the wedding for now until maybe they complete the 3 years, but they should not be punished for accepting this offer. Are you following me? She can be used as an example. Are you for that probably next time under this and all that, they let the army play that godly role. We see God forgive people of their trespasses. We see some of these societies where there is development also, see how they behave to their citizens. Let us not behave like North Korea, where the man, we have a hairstyle. He said nobody wears that kind of hairstyle. Where a man will decree that within so time nobody should laugh, nobody should smile, nobody maybe should find a lover, and all that. We're not in North Korea. I want the army with this girl, with this Hannah, show some level of compassion and and understanding. That's okay. We forgive you or we query you, but putting her in indefinite detention is what I am clearly averse to. I want her to be released forthwith, and then public cautioned. And then tell her that, we didn't, for you wearing that uniform and allowing such to happen is clearly a breach of our administrative rules and regulation and all that, So, but give her that particular, give her some gap and give her some level of respect and love too. And then, that issue of heart, most of these big men you see, if you see them behave in lapse of all these strange women and all that, but when they come out, they pretend and all that. This young girl display her own love openly and all that to a young man, not that she fornicated, not that she has committed any atrocity, but she agreed to a marriage proposal. She doesn't want to be a prostitute. She not that she was caught in prostitution. She was caught, doing something that is legitimate and legal and does not contravene the law of the land. So I want them to play that godly role by forgiving her and get her out of detention. That is, I'm making it as a plea. Throwing her in this detention is not the appropriate thing at this time. We are in the Christmas season, so let them use this particular gift, as a Christmas gift to that girl and to that young man. And say, yes, we can allow you, but after 3 years and all that, your marriage proposal accepted, but go ahead and start planning. But for now, she's not going to get married until after 3 years. Fine, you can do that, but getting her out of detention is my main stake, and I want her to be out of detention. I want the police, army authority to forgive her and bring her out of detention.
Let us come to, before we wrap up for today, sir. Let us come to the man who proposed to the soldier. I mean, we
Yes.
haven't really heard much about him since then.
Mm,
I've read a statement by the DG of the NYC, backing the soldier for
mm,
that discipline on that soldier. But we
mm.
haven't heard anything about the young man. What do you
They,
think right now?
they,
The
they,
man
they have. I heard they have issued him a query.
query,
Yeah,
not
they
guardroom, not
yeah,
court
no, no, no,
martial.
no, no. They can't do that now. That's what we're saying. They have issued a young man a query, and the young man will answer. There is issue of love. That it
Mm,
was just issue of moment. The thing came all over him, and he felt that this is the only person he can stay all his life with. He passed through university, saw many girls. He didn't propose to all those girls, but he saw this army woman. There is something about this girl's character that really caught his fancy, and this is issue of heart. You can't define it. At that moment, this young man, he was not the one that may have videoed it. He didn't ask anyone to video it. Somebody may have videoed it and all that. It's a thing of the heart. It's a thing that is personal. So any of the query, if I'm in the guy's shoe, I will give them a very good answer. That he came all over me, and I felt that without this girl, I can't stay the rest of my life. I may even go and commit suicide. Do you want me to die? You want me to die? This is the girl I want to marry. And you want me to, and all that. Ask them that question. Those guys also will forgive that young man because, as I said earlier, it's a thing of heart. It can be a thing, like a gift in this Christmas period. Let's forgive each other. Let's also allow people who want to be happy to be happy. Let's not destroy people's joy. Let's not destroy people's happiness. All because we want to be seen to be disciplined, applying all those 20, as I said, like 18th century, way of doing things and all that. We're in 21st century, technological era. The world is moving very fast. There are new developments. I'm sure in 10 years ago, nobody would have known this about this proposal. But we are now in the era of social media. That was how you and I got to know about this. It may have happened even before. But no, yes, this thing may have happened even when I served. But there was no social media. We saw those army young ladies, in camp. You know how many couples would have married those girls, and all that, without anyone knowing. But the era of social media in which we are in now always blows everything out of proportion. So I think we must try to live with the time. It's the area of social media. Let them not make it look as if this lady has committed the greatest crime, or the young man has committed great. They were not caught fornicating. They were caught doing what they were supposed to do. That when a man, is of ripe age, he should propose to a woman, and a man will leave his family and cling onto a woman, and both of them shall become one. And Bible said they were naked and they were not ashamed. It's something that is spiritual. It's not something anyone can define. And when it comes over you, sometimes you become senseless. That's why they say that love is blind. So these big
mm,
men that are pretending now should know that it is a matter of the heart. It's a thing of heart. And this young man was overwhelmed. The young woman was overwhelmed. And they came to the conclusion that they must be husband and wife. Let them, bring this to bear and forgive them and allow this particular transaction to take place so that we will regard them
transaction.
as a couple. It's a transaction. It's a
Yeah,
transaction. You will
I
regard
agree,
them as
sir.
couple of the year, and it will enter into Guinness Book of Record. And they will recount it to their children. That, do you know that I was disciplined for ever agreeing to marry your dad? When they sit down as grandfathers, they will recollect the story. I was disciplined. I was queried because I wanted to marry your mom. And I said, there's no other person I want to marry except your mom. They will tell these stories to their children and grandchildren and all that. Let's allow this to take place. That's my play.
Barrister, on a lighter note, there was a
Yes,
time we read reports of military, female soldiers complaining that they didn't find men to woo them or to love them. And
yes,
it's probably one of the reasons this one particular one trended, that people
yes,
are finding love with soldiers. People used to be afraid of. So in fact, there was a
yes.
particular video at the time that also trended about somebody who admired a soldier.
A
I said, I
young,
just
a
love
young, a
this
young
one.
boy.
And then the soldier disciplined him. You admire soldier. It's
Yeah.
wrong.
Can you
you know,
imagine? Can you imagine?
no. So on a lighter note, sir, let us also come to the point of when you are on duty. What should apply when you're on duty? Even if, yeah, a matter of the heart happens, right? But you're
Yes,
on duty. Shouldn't people should also
yes.
be conscious that, okay, I want to accept this, or I would like to
Mm,
do this. I also love this person in return, but because I'm on duty and I'm also on uniform, I do not
yes,
also know who might be watching me. Can
yes.
I just, what should apply? I mean, on
Well,
a norm
as I said earlier, this is a matter of love. It's not a crime. If it is that he's found in a beer parlor drinking beer
with
or doing
uniform,
anything with
anything that can
uniform,
bring
yeah,
disrespect to the uniform when you're
yeah,
on
to the
duty.
uniform. But I don't think that accepting marriage proposal disrespect the uniform. I don't believe so. If anyone thinks to the contrary, it is that person's opinion. It is a matter of love, as I said earlier. So far, nothing is done to really disrespect the institution. That, as rightly pointed out, this is a young lady that may not have had any person for years, proposing to her. And here presents a very golden opportunity by a young man. And you turn it down. And that is the end. And you will see. None of them will want to, for a young man to really brace up and have the courage to approach that lady, which is not normal at times, in our society here, because we feel that those ladies are tough, they are unapproachable, and all that. So I think that I will not want a situation where I will hold it against the young man or against the young woman that they have disrespected our uniform. As somebody has right, those top men may be behind that female lady. And they may have even approached her, for some other thing, and she don't. You go and agree to a bloody civilian. So this is the way now to get at her. It may
bloody
be
civilian. That's
a bloody. You gotta accept a bloody civilian. Meanwhile, I am here dying for you and all that. And those men are married. So anything can happen. In this thing. I'm only building a scenario. I'm not saying that is actually what happened.
Yeah.
So this young man, I've seen this particular young man who has proposed to her. No other person has approached her for many years, and so this is a golden opportunity.
Or that she's interested in.
And if they don't want her, she can resign from the army and go and marry her. Because I take your uniform, take your gun, leave me alone, let me go and find. I found love, and that young man is starting life. Two of them may make it in life.
Love.
I'll fall in love, man. And you want to blow her chances. No, leave her alone. Leave her alone.
Zazu. So, Barrister, thanks so much for your time. I stole into your time. We've been trying to do this since yesterday, but you're quite busy. I appreciate your time. Yes, I was supposed to come to your office, but I'm so sorry.
Yes.
Lagos traffic can kill. If you have plans for
it's mad. It's now that we're in December, it's total madness. I agree with you.
Yeah, so that's why I decided to explore the virtual means so that we can at least have the conversation.
It's all right. It's all those hitches that are usually your fault. Sorry for all that. I'm sorry about that.
Thank you so much, Barrister. I will advance this topic and other topics. I will still see you in your office because I know you're handling so many matters of human interest that
I have so many now. Just come. I'm not even publicizing them and all that, but I will know.
I understand.
Thank you, my brother.
so much, Barrister.
Bless you,
well done, sir. Compliment.